so many ways that one can do that. And the second is this notion of the crafting of a message, you know, which seems to work at almost some kind of structural level. I don't completely understand it. So I think I have this feeling right now that even though I'm talking, I don't want to talk anymore. I want to go home and do my work. I feel really restless, and I feel like, in a sense, the challenge is so daunting right now from everything I've seen today that I want the refuge of working in my home place.
Come in under the tent. Use the political.
That within my home tent or home place, there is. If you look under any stone, you'll find what you're seeing here on the global level. It doesn't matter where you are. It's right in front of you all the time, any place, in the state of Maine, the state of New Hampshire, the state of Florida, wherever anyone seems to be from. But I want to start doing that right now. And what I've also learned from this whole week is that, in terms of outcomes, in terms of what one does, is that I think as an educator, the most crucial thing that we have to do is whatever our voice might be. And we all have different voices. Some are filmmakers, some are writers, some are organizers, some are administrators, some are teachers. And it's a matter of using that voice as well as you possibly can. And there's such a variety of ways of doing that. But it's time to get started, or to continue, as the case may be.
I'd be disappointed if the outcome were a collection of papers that are just whatever anybody wants to contribute. I would be really excited if we started in on the agenda that we've just been talking about all week. You know, I've been keeping an informal list of whenever anybody says, you know what we ought to do, or we ought to be doing. And the thing that comes up over and over and over again is we need a new metaphor and a new name for global warming. And I was talking to Tony about that, and I was saying, okay, to whom do we need to target that? He's got the data. It says which groups of people need the new metaphor, and he's in keeping with the pluralist metaphor idea. You could come up, you know, just start brainstorming new metaphors and new names, and that was work that could be readily done. So that seems to me to be something that, you know, that's picking the low-lying fruit.
Picking a low-lying fruit.
I think so.
Could we do it while we're together a little bit?
That's what you were suggesting.
And then all week, other people have been saying, we need to talk about the legal. We need to investigate or write a paper on the legal right to richness of experience. We need to come up with an ethic of sorrow. You know, the list just goes on. We need to find. Well, I could go through here. So rather than just sending out a call for papers to contribute to a volume, maybe assign teams to go after these certain key issues that have emerged from the week.
One thing I'd suggested to Jeff, each of us are getting a lot of thoughts being sparked by a lot of things during each of the presentations, and sometimes we're able to throw them into the pool during the discussion. Often we're able to talk to individual people, but I'm thinking of something of a, not necessarily a blog site, but some sort of a site that maybe Jeff could set up for this group, where we could throw in our ideas and just put them in there. I don't know if we need our version of a Wikipedia or whatever it's called, but just to collect in some form or another and see what happens. And then we could bounce off of those.
I'll volunteer to do that. John is a true witness.
Oh, good. We knew a group like this that met at the Aspen Institute, and then now into the 20-something anniversary reunion. Whoa. But that was before blog. Well, yeah, but blogs is just getting this group together. I don't know about. Everybody's so busy, but boy, I'd love to see a blog. More stuff for us to steal.
Good.
Everybody knows Steve Black's cell phone number because he just left and I just found his watch. Does everybody have a cell phone?
His phone number is
Oh, yeah.
staying over.
I thought it's far. Is this?
That's his Washington number.
He's not gonna go far without his ID.
Is he staying at the hotel?
Maybe at the hotel.
I believe he is.
He is.
He's going to the airport.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's an outcome. We have Steve Black's wallet. What can we do?
That's something concrete.
Do we need to stay with what Kathleen was saying? I don't know if you wanted to. Or...
What I was going to do, Don, is run a Quaker meeting here for a moment and just allow people to speak what they need to say in terms of outcomes. And then as we quiet, then go back to the ones that we maybe can go to directly, in the present, here and now.
You know, I always have a feeling at a meeting, as it concludes like this, with wonderful energy about emailing or websites and reunions and stuff, which is so neat. But I do also have this feeling that there's a way in which we should be careful not to reinvent a wheel, or there's a lot of material out there. And I do want to just mention, as I'm sure many of you know, that Yale had a conference on climate change here in Aspen in October, and they have done and it was multi-stakeholder and so on, and they have a short report on it, and they're doing a website which they want to be very interactive, and I think that, it would probably be helpful to link in certain ways to what they're already doing, because they're trying to, they had all the same, messaging and media and so on. So I just want to make sure that we connect to things that are out there. And use the immense resources that are here.
Absolutely. I think it would be really a loss if we didn't do that. Susan?
I would echo that and actually maybe reinforce it. Doing messaging right is a lot of hard work, and people, actually spend tens of thousands of dollars developing message, testing them, and without that, it's not useful. So I want to actually evoke one word that has been mentioned numerous times throughout this week, and that maybe is a little bit smaller in ambition, but maybe more meaningful and more doable. And that is the word gift. I've heard that word several times here. What is the gift that each one of us can bring back to one other community, one other person, one other place, one other class, one other something?
I think I didn't finish my thought there because I'm listening to the thunder. But I think maybe Susie's portion too is that there's other projects out there we all know, and that in fact assembling just maybe some references to some of them would be helpful. But what's distinctive about this group?
Right.
Yeah. And therefore, what is it that, in particular, the sense of science running up against the limits of its own explanatory powers is, I think, one of the most significant motivations for a meeting like this. And that sends a message. I'm not saying this is a message we're sending out, but I want to just explore that for a minute, because the sense of humility with those who have spent years and years on this issue, but frustrated about the values and the action piece, especially as you said it, Jeff, what we value, we still destroy. I think that sort of holds it in a very paradoxical framework. And that particular piece is I think what is distinctive about what this group is trying to imagine and get through. Other people are saying we all have stakeholders, and how do we get it through, and how do we get a message? But valuing something, as Tony's research has pointed out, and still destroying it, I think is an immensely creative problematique that, maybe it's the yeast of some little bread that can grow out of this particular group.
And somehow embedded in that are these other things that have been moving around, which is language, image, metaphor, and imagination. I sense that's where the solution is.
Exactly.
Long after the final word's been spoken, I see a conference like this as a Mandela sand painting. We all get together, who knows why, And we exchange for, all these ideas and relationships. And long after the last word's been spoken, you'll remember the relationships you've built and the sense that there are other people out there doing really fine work and committed to great causes in their own way. And that's what I take from something like this. And so what I ask of you, and what I'd like to promise in return, is that I can call on you when I need you, and that you can call on me if you need me. Because that's what these things do for me. I go home and I know there's another 30, 40, 50 people who are just doing really remarkable work. And it's the content of this just doesn't matter. I mean, I'm sorry because I know that tremendous work went into this. But quite frankly, the content of this just doesn't matter that much to me. It's the people, it's the faces, it's the relationships, it's the love in that regard that really matters. And that's what we need to keep. It sounds kind of hokey, but I mean, if you think about all the conferences you've been to in your life, it's the relationships you've made and the people you can count on to move things forward that really matter. And so I guess that's the promise I'm trying to get to you, and I hope that you would respond with, and I know you would.
I'd just like to second that I feel very much that the product for me has been these kinds of associations and the information that I'm getting for the work that I'm doing, and I want to make myself available to all of you for the work that you're doing. And it's sort of this kind of networking and human relations that really, I think, matters, apart from the love aspect. I'm a little bit more utilitarian.
I don't think you really are, Barry. He just needs a hug.
On the first day, I mentioned funding agencies and ASICs, and I mentioned what they'd like to see out of these meetings is collaboration. But I'm not sure that they had quite in mind the exact meaning that you're conveying. But I think that, for me, being able to have some collection of collaboration, like what might come out of you calling on some folks here that you didn't know before, would be very valuable.
Yes. And we can make a great list that way.
Yeah. Well, I'll third what's already been said. I mean, one of the reasons that I was so interested in working on this and being here is to make these connections, and also to say, as a physical scientist who is embedded in that world, I enjoy nothing more than connecting across and bringing what I know out to these other disciplines. So again, I'm offering my services to people around here. Call me. Dennis, your thunder is in action.
Just to pick up on what Mary Evelyn was saying, and Mitch as well. If we do get this website going and put things out there, for those of you that know of something that's already been done, or good books or whatever, or videos, that sort of thing, to feed it in there. I mean, I've really sucked up so many things and so many books that's going to be so helpful for me. But we can continue this process. And the second thing, that's with the word stuff. But I love Hal's challenge, I guess, especially working with dreams. I mean, the challenge that I enjoy is, if I were to make a movie, how would I do this to convey, I think, what he's asking. I have some ideas already, but it's like I want to let that percolate, maybe to dream on it. And I love that imaginal challenge you're giving us.
We'd love to steal ideas.
Nancy's
Give you some.
Well, it's an extension, but I think the other thing we can do is, as part of this information networking that we do on the blogs, is let each other know what we have in the pipeline, or things we're involved in that we can help each other leverage. And just talking, it's kind of ironic. I talked to Susie today and realized that, man, she's doing this study on the implications of climate change to coastal California and how much our community is prepared for this. And now my mind is just spinning on ways that I could help her run with that and make, places, opportunities, connections with, journalists. She's going to be at this conference in California World Oceans Conference, where we're doing a plenary, and we're going to have, and bring in highlight some of this stuff. So
well, if we knew what each other was doing or had things coming down the road, it would give us time to think about how we can help.
Sharon?
Yeah, although this may be old hat to some of you, I think that the extreme multivariate nature of people here is somewhat novel for me. I mean, I end up in interdisciplinary places, but this is my first opportunity to spend really an intense week with very, very bright people, all of whom seem to think differently from me, and it's just been. And what I do plan to do is take some of this information material back to students. But I have an interest now in knowing about other multivariate venues. And again, if we're sharing information, just as the Aspen Institute one, which I had heard something about, is something like this. It seems to me that the possibility that these kinds of venues, even if they don't produce anything concrete 2 weeks after we all go home, the potential that these can form really interesting collaborations and relationships down the road, I think is very high. And the more we know about them, the more we can share this information with other people. I guarantee you I'll have students who will be utterly captured by the things we've been talking about today. And I just want to keep in touch with the community that sees this as normal. Because I think it's a really great move forward for disciplinary thinking people.
I also want to remind, especially the educators, that this whole week has been recorded and will be available for those who want to use it in classrooms or other meetings, or for your own viewing pleasure. If you're bored one night, go back to the But that is another way for you to reach out to your students. If there's one lecture in particular that you'd like your students to see, you can get that and show it to them.
I'm just gonna put out there a few of the things I'm thinking of doing, and we'll probably spend the next 10 years doing. I think I can be most influential through the educational networks that I have, and particularly the science school that I work at. So, going to look at our curriculum and the way we teach, and try and, change the language and the way we deliver that. I'm also involved with education of educators at a graduate level, so I'm going to bring this into those conversations. And then through Norm's suggestion, I'm going to start trying to build a collaborative network of science schools and interpretive centers throughout Colorado to start teaching about global warming.
And Kim and I have talked about how we could use NCAR resources. They have an educational and outreach part of it, the National Center for Atmospheric Research, that could maybe also participate in this. Steve?
Yeah, the thing that crossed my mind is this is sort of a multi-dimensional web. And I'm sure that everyone here has thought of someone they know who would be interested in either coming to something like this, or would benefit from something like this, or would fit in. And I'd be really interested to have each of you put those names in a hat along with the associated interests and disciplines, so that we're all aware of who might be out there that would really get involved in this.
I second that. I think Steve and I, we've talked for a long time about this together. I think we're so in tune that my dream is, could you do this periodically, maybe not with the same people, but use it as a container to catalyze these sorts of interactions, and view it as a web that just gets greater and greater. And there are other things like this that are going on, and will they interconnect to the point where if enough groups like this are meeting and cycling people through to stimulate them, that it could actually act as a catalyst to create a much bigger change than just one group or two groups.
I just thought of brainstorming idea, and one idea is that I have an actual product that I think we could use right now, or that I would like you guys to use. Because Hal, I heard you say that opening piece that you did for the 92 Summit, that was the second time it's been shown. Why?
Well, it was on television.
Okay, but what I'm thinking of is I've been playing recently with this whole new thing that's sweeping through the web world, and that's things like YouTube. Okay, people can actually put their own things up on the web, and you find all sorts of communities. And of course, what it really builds is through the grapevine. I see something and I go, oh, this is hilarious. I'm going to go send it to my friend, and then it spreads like wildfire.
What is this called? YouTube?
YouTube, Google Video now. I mean, there's a number of competing things, but it's where you can actually provide content, video content, onto the World Wide Web.
Video. Okay.
And so all I'm thinking is that maybe we have stuff in the can that, I mean, I'm thinking, David, if some of your talk right here in this would be awesome to be able to say to my friends, hey, go look at this.
You'll become a YouTube
He likes that.
That'd be great.
A lot of the clips that you folks saw are available and you can download it off the PBS website. And we have lots of clips and stuff, and also leaders' guides, teachers' guides for both college and for high schools. It's all available free.
We have a challenge. We have to figure out how to communicate on an iPod.
Yeah. Could some of this be put into podcast, downloadable podcast?
Sure.
Put it somewhere.
Certainly the audible portions of the talks that we give. That's all of them.
Can I take a step back from technology and
Yeah.
also ask that we all do the one-on-one? Because the one-on-one, as we found this week, is incredibly powerful. That eye contact, that heart contact, that's how we relate to other people. So we have to remember that we have this amazing gift of communication.
In fact,
Each of us needs to do it.
and that's the only thing that will keep us alive.
Yeah, I just want to second that. For all of our great work in the world of video and print media, as well as reporters, journalists, and filmmakers, I just can't help but feel that the cutting edge today is in the face-to-face. That's what moves under the radar. It ain't gonna be shot down, and that's the wildest thing of all, is this. And so, just as we head back and we converse with family, converse with friends, that does shift the language. Just if I'm using some word in some slightly new way. That's how language grows, through conversation more than it does through print. So.
We're all going to get there to
One of the things that Jeff mentioned to me very early on was something as old-fashioned or old-cat as some sort of publication product from this.
Well, I was going to come back to that. Was it Kathleen's said that we need to do more than papers or something other than papers, and I just wanted to circle back on that and get a sense from everybody of what about papers? Is anyone going to write a paper they feel that comes out of this? And if not, that's okay. But if you are, I'd certainly be interested to know how many people think people will come out of what they've done.
Well, I'm working on a book, but that's something a little bit different. But
An alternative to this would be, I'd be very interested if people are writing to share, if they're, to the extent they're comfortable with sharing what they're writing. If they've completed a paper, that we could exchange papers. Not that they have to be a focus of this workshop, but I'd certainly like to keep in touch with people on what they're writing, what their thoughts are. I think that would certainly, I would greatly benefit from knowing what everybody's thinking about or they're working on. So there's some way to set up electronically or whatever, a way to exchange what we're working on.
I don't remember who suggested it, but I want to be sure we surface it again, the idea of writing these quasi-inaugural addresses. So that we actually have an unusual, kind of whimsical way of articulating the values to the American people. I thought that was a really good idea. It's not a paper,
Right.
but it's a very important document.
So now, if there's no other thoughts on this, I was going to suggest we would turn to Kathleen's suggestion, which is the a rising of images or metaphors, new words that could be used to convey the importance and urgency of what we've been discussing. Do you want to say a little more about that?
If I were to do this in my own classroom, for example, I would say that only the people who are interested in it should participate. I would get everybody standing up. I would ask people to generate realms of metaphor. Are we talking about human body disease metaphors? Are we talking about mechanical failure metaphors? And get big sheets of paper with that kind of general area. Get a clump of people organized around it to just start generating the words that come to mind about that. The ideas that seem to be expressing within that realm of what we're doing. And just kind of flash these things on a piece of paper, not in any organized way at all. And then see, once you can do that, once you have all these ideas, you just try to focus in on what image might be the central one.
Give them some crayons too.
One of the presentations today, I kept in mind this idea of images, and science gave us the image. One of the universal images we've had that science gave us was Earthrise. But today, here we saw the same Earth with Katrina. All right, so that's a global warming image of the planet, and especially when we got down to the details, what was under those clouds, in that presentation about that. So to me, those were two images that, on the one hand, it was almost like a mandala that Katrina imagery, but pretty deadly spirals there.
Are we just now talking about images that have come to us?
Well, I wanted to see.
We're talking about more procedural.
Let's stay focused on how we would accomplish Kathleen's idea. Okay. I get a sense.
And let's let the thunder in on the conversation,
Yes.
for heaven's sakes. Okay.
That may be one of the images. How many of you would like to proceed with this, to participate in?
Describe the process a little bit first.
Okay.
Well, what I would suggest is that we go ahead and play out this session. You said a half hour. And then I would suggest that if there are people interested in brainstorming, that they hang out and maybe for another 20 minutes see what we can come up with. I wouldn't want to run it in a circle like this, and I wouldn't want to try to do it with people who weren't interested.
So let's do that. Are you willing to stay after we finish this session with anybody that wants us to? Okay. All right. So let's just
Complete brainstorming, no promises.
And it sounds like, Robert, if an image is coming up, that would be a part of that process.
Okay.
So any image that struck us during this.
Right.
Is that
metaphors?
The dissatisfaction people express with the way that we're representing global warming, the way that Tony's telling us it doesn't reach people, the kinds of target groups who are apparently untouched. How can we come up with a new way of thinking or visual or representing the issue?
Actually, Tony was suggesting that it is reaching a hell of a lot of people. But nonetheless, are there metaphors, ways of speaking? You know, between Tony and I, we floated planetary fever this morning. What other possibilities are there? But Tony, you know, you were also saying, hey, fever has chills with it. And I was saying, yeah, and you feel it, and you empathize with it, and it makes you feel sick when you start thinking about
It should include icons,
Yep.
screensavers,
coffee mugs,
T-shirts.
Peter Max. Peter Max.
It seems like Tony's challenge, though, just to really focus on where would be the richest or the best place to try to apply the images. Not so much concern about global warming, but prioritizing.
Right, the urgency.
The urgency, you know, some image that starts from the bottom up, but, you know, and then someone tells us where.
Well, there was a
how we
certain
get lost.
urgency. Actually, I can't believe that I'm saying this because it was in the chart that you presented, Jeff, and I don't usually respond to charts. But when you were talking about the Earth headed towards the same degree of warmth that we experienced 50 million years ago, for some reason, you know, it just hit me. And if there was a way of visualizing that, besides the graph, but it was very powerful and it just stayed with me the entire week.
I'd like to suggest that we need two kinds of metaphors. One that describes the seriousness of the situation, relate to, and another one that indicates there's something they can do. Some way to get involved, some way to help.
Just another take on this for a minute. I don't think we need to generate metaphors. I think they come out of the world pretty well, and we need to counsel around them, interpret them. I'm thinking, as an example, I'm thinking about Katrina, and the way. Here's where the psychologists and philosophers can really be of enormous help. I remember watching the Weather Channel, and I saw this giant Dybbuk, this monster, this nature's wrath that was both very beautiful and very terrifying, as it was growing in power, getting ready to crash into the coast. And this was all, you know, vividly portrayed on the screen. And it was very scary on all kinds of unconscious levels. I mean, talk about a dream. You know, this was incredible, and I felt I wasn't in its path either, but I could certainly imagine what it might have felt like for someone who was in its path, and I felt, wow, where's the counseling here? Who's out there to interpret this dream reality, this science fiction movie made real, this depth of the archetype coming out of the oceans, the place from whence we arise. You know, and it's with its fury being ready to be unleashed. So there's plenty of metaphors out there. I think it's our chance to interpret them, to provide counsel, to translate them into good action.
Well, and to speak them too. I mean, the metaphors you were just speaking, I didn't hear a hell of a lot of those. They might have been out there, but they're real close. But you gotta.
What you're talking about, from my point of view, they're symbols that need to be spoken metaphorically. And I agree with you, the symbols are out there. Now, I want to throw out something here, and because I feel like I'm stepping out on a limb, but let me throw it out here. You know, I'm interested in crop circles. And I'm interested in crop circles because I look at them as symbolic ways in which the earth is trying to speak to us. They are dreams of the earth that need our metaphorical participation. I saw a recent documentary on crop circles that was made this year. They are beautiful images. They have a musical harmony and a score to them. I think, you know, in some way that symbol is out there and it's asking us to listen to the earth. So I just throw that out there in terms of what you're saying. Symbols are out there, but let's not lose the way in which some of these symbols are on the fringes of what we accept or what we believe is acceptable.
These are images that, like Katrina, that carry tremendous energy and power. And it's, you know, how do you access that and keep the message going?
See, I would link it with what you talked about, the invisible. It's the invisible of nature that's asking for our participation. But official science doesn't give it, or the official ways that we have of speaking about reality don't even admit it into the conversation.
I think you do it through feeling. You find the image that evokes feeling a sense of hope, despair, compassion, connection. And that's how you change. That's how you address the values behavior gap.
I'd love to see you guys get access to Weather Channel weather forecasters. I mean, talk about opportunities. You know, it is so rich in possibility, not only metaphorically, because they show you these maps. They're so fixated on terrible storms too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's their narrative for cash. But there are so many climate change and educational opportunities. And I don't know whether you have any access to these people, but I'd like nothing more than to get one of those weathermen, you know, and say, hey, come on, do it.
That's actually happening. The Weather Channel has just recently hired a climatologist, Heidi Cullen, who's now been there, I think, about 2 to 3 years. And so they've begun actually doing specials on global warming on the Weather Channel. I mean, you're right. And to the extent that they can start integrating it into our interpretation of everyday weather would be phenomenal.
Yeah.
But Gore and Clinton actually tried to do that back in the Clinton days, where they held a conference with all the meteorologists, and it didn't fly too well at the time.
I want to just add to this that there is a substantial body of research that shows that people, when they associate climate change with weather phenomena like hurricanes or severe weather, actually interpret global warming as something they cannot do anything about because the weather is God-made, it's natural, there's nothing they can do. As soon as you trigger the weather frame, is how they call it, you basically lead people to inaction. I want to just alert you that there's lots of research on this, and it's really difficult, which is why I said let's not just spend too much time on, you know, creating messages, because this is like there's so much research that needs to go into this for them to be effective. You could do a lot of harm, if you will, by just putting out an image that evokes in people something you don't want to intend. So weather frame is a dead start. It's a dead start. I'm sorry.
I don't think you'll be saying that in another 10 years.
Well, I'm telling you that this is how people interpret.
Based on past
physically.
experience. But
Well,
when you have
that's what
5
people have.
Katrinas
But people
hitting...
do
That's what
change,
people-
Susie, they do change.
Okay, fine.
But
if you don't want to hear it, that's fine too.
No, I totally hear it, but I'm
You
just.
know, but in defense of what Susie just said, I mean, if this is a year when they told us that there would be at least all the systems are in place to have another hurricane season like we had last year, and if that doesn't happen, well, so it's it's over.
That's
For
right.
at least a while.
That's why you need many years of experience. Okay.